Wake up. It's time to use your mojo. Wake up. It's time to use your mojo.
Their opinions in their, how do you say, in their platforms, they know that the masses don't have a reference point. They know that the masses of our people aren't sitting in front of anything like this. Mm-hmm. Very few of our people have any libraries for themselves or their children anymore. It's not part of the so-called Black Indian culture, right? So they sit around and they protect the nom de guerre as identities. And then they have what you call the compressed history for each one of these pockets, right? As if we're separate people that had no communication with each other. And then they're arguing about who was here first, when all of us have been here for thousands of years. And then the hybrid Europeans ruling all of these nom de guerre who are arguing nom de guerre as identity. Now, point that I'm making, Dr. J, is this. While our people are willingly playing these nom de guerre games, the one who created these nom de guerre is ruling all of them. Mm-hmm. And robbing all of them and taxing all of them. And the ones who didn't have the courage to stand up and tell the truth were mad at the Moors because the Moors are standing up, challenging the hybrid who's their God, but you're not supposed to say that. And everybody knows that. And they know it too. Just like you'll see them talking about, as an example, with this nom de guerre, right? How do they make their money? The same way our people pretty much made their money. What do? We sit around and sing for them and dance and tap dance for them. And we're allowed to have a little bit of vouchers to do that. And we become known for that. And they take over that. What about this nom de guerre? They sit around, they have powwows and dance with them and sell trinkets. And talk about how recognized they are, distinguished from the rest of the nom de guerre. Right?
Right.
Meanwhile, all of the nature knowledge that they claim to have with nature and the land, you'll see them talking philosophically with no cures on parched land that you can hardly grow things on. Most of them are drugged out and alcoholics, which is now their culture. Yeah. But yet they're proud. In other words, it's false pride. This one, housing, unum sanctum.
Well, you did do that, or you put
this is the Moors to the south. Mm-hmm. And these are the first ones that were called this.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So that you deal with the Carib Moors, right? So go to the record, you'll see it. It's not hidden. Mm-hmm. Those are the first ones that they put this tag on. Okay. And this tag later found its way up here as they had successes down there. Right? Now on San Juan, Borican, where they murdered a lot of women, and they killed an awful lot of the men and murdered a lot of the children, and they raped a lot of the women. Then they called this area, that particular island, it was actually a string of a couple islands. They call it Rich Port. And so the corruption of the Rich Port or into English is Puerto Rican. But that's not who they are. Now, when you talk to them, if you're traveling and you go down to the islands, right, what would they tell you? They'll say we're African and Indian rather than say that they're Moors. But they don't deny their African root because they know they're in Africa. The ones that don't know that is the ones up here. Mm-hmm. You see where the schism was created? And yet they'll admit that they are and then turn around and say that they're this. So what does that cause? It causes what you call breach. So you have people of the same blood, different tribes, right? Mm-hmm. Ruled by the hybrid who made up all of these nom de guerre and applied to them. Now, this other thing that I want to say to you. If you're that, right, why don't you call the land that? If you're that, why don't you call the land that? If you're that, why don't you call the land that? If you're that, why don't you call the land that? If you're that, why don't you call the land that? Because it has no connection to the land whatsoever. They're all nom de guerre. Now, we don't need to go into that because it's just an established fact. But for the sake of clearing up or bypassing arguing with compromised persons claiming scholarship, we're not here trying to compete with them. We're here trying to liberate the ones who want to be liberated. Because remember, one of the problems that we've always had is that a lot of people claiming wanting to be free don't want really to be free. Because you got to remember, the hybrid is really their God. And they have what is known as the Yaldabaoth spirit. So if you think that you're going to argue with someone who looks like you, who has a Yaldabaoth spirit, means two things. You don't know what you're dealing with. You can't see through that person's veil. And you allow them to distract you from getting the work done. That's why you don't see me arguing with them people. Mm-hmm. Because I'm already 2 or 3 layers ahead, if you get the point. I'm here because I have to be. But my mind is not. I'm spiritually really not here. I don't argue that. I got too much work to do. You know, however, and for those who have been kind of spooked by the priesthood, because all Adams know this too.
See, let's get that a little clearer. Let me see.
As a matter of fact, yeah.
Let me see. Oops. On the side so they can see it.
Yeah.
It's the light glare. That's what can't get it.
Now, matter of fact, no, I want you to read it. It's
Okay.
one of my favorite chapters. All right. Now, one of the things that you're going to find also with this is that this has out of sequence printing, yeah. That has to be corrected. Move to the east and have you read it.
Starting here?
Yeah. This.
So I'm reading from the Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood of the East.
Now, I will remind you for all of you, many of you who are adepts already have this information. I'm sharing this information respectfully for those for whom this information has been held back. Are we clear? 2 reasons: to give them information, to give them courage, and to also for them to recognize what's happening currently that we've been telling you for years that's manifesting now, including what I've told you about what, 2.5 weeks ago or more, right? When we talked about, when I told you next 30 to 40 days, authority for the institutions will be dead. Read that, Dr. J.
Chapter 8, the Council of the Seven
will be dead.
You're reading from the Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood of the East.
Now, I will remind you for all of you, many of you who are adepts already have this information. I'm sharing this information respectfully for those for whom this information has been held back. Are we clear? 2 reasons: to give them information, to give them courage, and to also for them to recognize what's happening currently that we've been telling you for years that's manifesting now, including what I've told you about what, 2.5 weeks ago or more, right? When we talked about, when I told you next 30 to 40 days, authority for the institutions will be dead. Read that, Dr. J.
Chapter 8, the Council of the Seven